Hey Star Wars fans, how's it going today? My name is Cody Dastrup. With me is Logan Schultz.
Hola.
Together we are Star Wars Doctrine. Thanks for tuning in today. We got a fun show ahead of us. We recently put out a post on our Instagram and Facebook social medias about asking you guys what is your single favorite scene in all of Star Wars, which is a pretty big question to tackle.
Right,
but,
for sure.
We got a lot of good responses, and we wanted to talk with you guys about that today.
Right. So when we were talking about it, we thought of a couple ideas as what is, your single favorite scene in Star Wars, and that can be many different things, like the most impactful scene, the best fight, the most uplifting, things like that. There's lots of different aspects to what could be your favorite, and we'll definitely probably have to tackle that and explain why our favorites are both our favorites, but we wanted to highlight some of the cool comments we've gotten on Facebook. Instagram, we got some amazing ones too, but we're on Facebook today currently. And there was just some really interesting ones. And I guess one that I think really stuck out to me was by Ryan on our Facebook, and he said the very beginning of the opening sequence of the ship that took 5 minutes to glide through the screen. And of course, that's probably referring to in episode 4, the beginning, A New Hope, we see the Star Destroyer glide over the screen, and it's almost a full minute of screen time. And it was so stunning the first time that ever happened with the huge cinema feel, a ship that literally takes a minute to go over your head. That was just insane. That was a great feeling.
Well, and how, just such a cool way to give you, to start off, not just a movie, but the franchise with, this ship is massive. It's a really good way to just to realize this is, the Empire. It's a huge ship. They are, they control the galaxy, and just, I can't imagine seeing that for the first time. I don't remember the first time I saw that.
Yeah, me neither.
But seeing,
Wish I did.
Seeing that for the first time when nothing like Star Wars really existed yet.
Right.
Nothing quite like it, at least. And it was just so revolutionary. So that scene is definitely that's got to be one of the most epic scenes in all of Star Wars history.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And it's been replicated several times throughout cinema. Or people have paid homage to it through in cinema. It's really cool how impactful that scene has been. I think one of the most common ones we've seen, we saw lots of people were saying this one, but Luke looking at the Tatooine sons, the twin sons, basically right after Owen and Beru die, and he's met up with Ben, and he's just, there's that kind of feeling of hopefulness and also hopelessness. There's loss and a path ahead of him, and he doesn't really know what to do with his life. It's really interesting.
The twin sun scenes is obviously impactful because J.J. Abrams chose to go with that as the way to cap off the Skywalker saga, to have Rey looking into the suns as well. Mm-hmm. And that's just, that shows how big of a scene that was and how that's resonated with Star Wars fans everywhere. The twin suns, it's just cool.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. It was very unique, very fun, and does capture a lot of emotion. And you get John Williams' theme music. I can just picture Luke's face and the suns, and I can hear the music. Yeah. I know exactly what's playing right then. Right. So that's really cool.
One that I was pleased to see quite a bit, and this is just because this is our era, is a lot of people said the first time that Darth Maul activated his double-bladed saber. Mm-hmm. Because, I can't even tell you how many times that one popped up. And that's people who probably experienced their first theater experience of Star Wars as a Phantom Menace, like me and you. Mm-hmm. And, that truly is epic. Because, one, to people who had grown up with Star Wars, that was the first time you saw a double blade. And then to us, just as kids, it's what? I've never seen anything like this. It's just so cool. And I remember you had a Darth Maul lightsaber when we were kids, and you were Darth Maul for Halloween, and it was
3 times.
And it was just it's so cool. It's so iconic that existed. And think about games came out with it later, that you could have a double bladed saber, and even now, with Fallen Order. But it became so iconic and epic that people just loved it. I don't know, it's awesome.
And just that entire sequence, I feel like that scene, the prequels, definitely there's a lot of questions and stuff about some of the choices George Lucas chose to make. But I think that scene itself is the reason the prequels kept existing. Yeah. Because I don't think just that first ignition, everyone was just oh my God. What? Yeah. Right? That was so cool. you know when you see a movie and everyone cheers at a certain scene, that was the scene. I remember people like losing their mind in the theaters.
Right. Yeah, and with every Star Wars theater experience, there's always something that people just go, holy crap. Like I remember seeing The Last Jedi, it was when you found out Luke was actually just a projection. People were like, whoa, like out loud, like, right? Yeah, so that's a...
The Rise of Skywalker is like every 20 minutes, actually. There's lots of random, like, kind of small reveals that were insane.
So, no, that's definitely... And I think one of the cooler parts of that, too, is you actually see Maul fight with just one blade. Mm-hmm. He only activates one side on Tatooine the first time that he fights Qui-Gon. So it's even more epic when he ignites both the next time. Pretty cool.
Agreed.
Yoda lifting the X-Wing. I want to talk about that. This is from Jeff, and he said that Yoda lifting the X-Wing out of the swamp, and then just like the whole wise words from Yoda in general. You know, him telling size doesn't matter, size matters not. You know, and it's not different between lifting rocks and lifting the ship. It's only different in your mind. And
quit whining.
I want to go to Tashi Station.
Another one that came up really frequently was Vader in the hallway of Rogue One. Yes. Probably the most fan service scene you could have. Have you ever point out a film piece in a movie that was just like, okay, that's literally fan service. Yeah. It's Vader in the hallway in Rogue One, and everyone is happy it happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I almost was going to pick that one. But then I thought of, tried to think of something that I thought was a little more impactful. But that scene gave me, like, my childhood dreams fulfilled, because Vader's my favorite character. He always has been. And I feel like I got gypped in never just seeing him at full power. So to see that is just like, yeah, that was everything. That was amazing.
I agree. There was such I don't know, it was just really cool. Really, really was. Mm-hmm. And there's so many different things. Lots of people are saying that there's lots of different fights. Of course, the Obi-Wan and Anakin fight, the Darth Maul, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon fight that happens. And I'm trying to find it. There was one that was like my favorite comment.
Oh, really? Yeah. While you're looking for that, I was going to say, and this is definitely one of my favorites as well, in Return of the Jedi, just after Luke beats Vader. Mm-hmm. I do think it's dumb that he throws his lightsaber to the side.
It's stupid, but
the line, like, you failed, Your Highness. Like, I'm a Jedi. Like, my father before me. That delivery is just unreal.
Like Mark Hamill's best acting.
Yeah, it was so good. And someone put that, and I wish I could find who to give him credit. But that was just, that was one that when I saw that comment, I was like, ooh, that is a very impactful scene. That's very awesome.
Yeah, I can't find who said it, but someone said when Yoda beats R2-D2 up with a stick. That was maybe my favorite scene. I was like,
over a flashlight.
Yes, over a flashlight, and you're like, this is the guy we came to find.
Classic.
But anyways, what we were thinking about is, there's lots of different things. So as we jump into ours, there's lots of different things that make it great. I guess for them more or less that made Star Wars for everybody. And there's a few different ways of looking at it. Like, the fights of Star Wars are obviously super impactful.
Yeah, we could make a whole video on just, like, our favorite fights.
We could make a whole different video about, like, each different fight, period.
Oh, absolutely.
They're so impactful, they're so exciting, they're so fun. And that's honestly what makes Star Wars so exciting. Sometimes is the crazy fights. And then there's the space fights, the spaceships. There's the teaching moments in Star Wars. There's moments in Star Wars that just, like, make it gives you goosebumps type of deal, There's so many different aspects to what could really be a scene that made Star Wars. And to me, one of the things that I thought of was, when I was thinking of this, I was like, okay, one scene that to me didn't make Star Wars, and watching it later, I'm like, it's nice to see, but the first time I saw it just blew my mind away and was like everything I wanted in the world.
Yeah, was
when we had the celebration in Chicago back in 2014.
Yeah, should have been
back in 2014, and the trailer for The Force Awakens dropped.
Yeah,
and we were all watching bootleg copies of the recording on YouTube, and you get to hear Han say to Chewie, Chewie says, "Chewie, we're home." Every time, like, that was the most, like, emotional,
goosebumps,
gratifying. It was just insane seeing that scene, and it shut the internet down basically. Like, YouTube was having issues.
Yeah.
And it was such a cool scene, and that was really impactful. But like I said, that's probably not my scene.
Like your favorite scene?
That instance is probably my most memorable time of watching a scene and being like, wow, that specific memory and that specific thing was crazy to me.
That's true. It was pretty epic.
But what was your favorite, or what was your most epic Star Wars scene?
So a lot of things go into this for me, and the one I'm choosing to go with, like we said, there's so many. And I'm sure that if you asked me next week, it would change. You know, like this is mine right now. And it actually kind of goes more into listening to Sam Witwer explain the scene that really just makes me love it even more. And it's actually a scene from Rebels. Like these cartoons have brought some of the best Star Wars, in my opinion. I know a lot of people believe that. But just because we're saying your single favorite scene in all of Star Wars, I decided I want to kind of go with one of these cartoon shots. And the fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul, where Obi-Wan finally kills Darth Maul
40 years later.
Yeah, for the second time, but for real this time. Like
he killed him.
Yeah, exactly. I think it is just, first off, it's visually beautiful, like with the stars in the background and on Tatooine, and it's so cool to give an end to that ongoing conflict because of Darth Maul and his just like obsession with finding Kenobi, right? And wanting to just ruin his life.
Dominates a whole arc of Rebels, really.
Exactly. And even the Clone Wars.
Literally half the Clone Wars is about that.
Exactly. So Maul is like, he's become obsessed with it. And it's just out of pure hate and revenge. And I love the character arc for Maul in it. But I also love the character arc for Kenobi in it. And Sam Witwer talks about, just breaks down the scene. And he's the voice of Maul. And he talks about how Obi-Wan is just grown so much, and Maul mistakes that. Maul believes that this is the same Obi-Wan. He's an old rat in the desert, and I can take him. But Obi-Wan, you know, he talks about Obi-Wan's fighting stances changing throughout the scene to reflect like the type of person he's become. And Maul misreads it and thinks, I can use the same move that I killed Qui-Gon with, because Obi-Wan is just an old desert rat, and he thinks that that's going to be an effective move. But Obi-Wan ultimately shows him that he's here on duty protecting Luke, who they presume could be the chosen one at the time, and Obi-Wan's going to do whatever it takes to protect him, and Obi-Wan makes quick work of defeating Maul. And I do wish the scene would have gone on a little longer and been an epic fight, but the emotion behind it, and to see Obi-Wan strike Maul down while he tries to use the same move he used on Qui-Gon is just absolutely epic, and the emotion behind it. I do agree with your thoughts on the fact that it would be fun if they were to somehow tie that into the Kenobi series and do a live-action version of it. That would be cool. I would love something like that. But anyways, that's the scene I chose to go with this week at least, because I think it's just so impactful, and right now I've really just been loving just what the cartoons bring to the Star Wars saga, you know. I feel like people are missing out if they haven't seen all of them. It's just, it's awesome.
They do some really interesting things, and like some cool things that I think are harder to do, you know, just with time that cartoons allow you to be able to do.
Yeah.
And like when you're telling me about your scene, because obviously we kind of talk a little bit before we do these videos.
Right.
Amazing, right? You're telling me about how we were looking at the Sam Witwer video, and he's talking about how Obi-Wan's stance has changed. Like on that fight, the first time I watched it, I was like, dude, pick a frickin' fighting pose and go.
Right.
It's like, this is annoying.
Yeah, exactly.
But then like kind of watching him break it down, transitioning from like, okay, he's the General Kenobi to never mind. He's like, he goes into his more like kind of calm pose, which is also reminiscent of who he was as a Jedi Knight.
Right.
His pose is the same as a Jedi Knight as it is as Kenobi, or as Ben Kenobi. And then just like that transition into where he brings it up and acts like Qui-Gon's pose. And I thought that was really interesting, just to see that he was honoring Qui-Gon at that moment. That's who was on his mind.
Yeah.
It was probably about Luke, but also this was like, finally, he was like, no, this is protecting Luke, but this is also for my master.
Yeah.
And I guess also probably for Satine, but he didn't have a jetpack, so didn't know how to honor her, I guess.
No, exactly. Like that's emotional, dude. And that's like, that's something I didn't pick up on until Sam Witwer really broke it down. So that's why I say that to me added to that scene for sure.
For sure.
But let's. You knew mine going into this, but
right.
you didn't tell me what yours was.
It's because you didn't watch my Twitch stream.
By the way, guys, if you are on Twitch, give us a follow. We've been getting into the streaming on Twitch, doing some Battlefront and Star Wars games, and it's a lot of fun. Logan's heading that, and I'm on there a lot of times hanging out with them too. But it's a lot of fun. So come hang out with us, give us a follow. But since I didn't catch your last Twitch, please fill me in on what your favorite scene is.
So my favorite scene actually comes from when we went and watched I like the scene a lot, but when we watched The Rise of Skywalker, we did a 9 movie, 27-hour marathon thing.
Right.
And it was really cool to get and watch everything. It's super impactful, way more. There's a really cool video we put out talking about that in general. But after that, while watching it, what really hit me was The Empire Strikes Back, watching Yoda train Luke, because that's such an impactful scene in general. And if you want a good Star Wars quote, you should literally just watch Dagobah.
True. There's like so many in there.
It's basically, every 3 seconds Yoda says something that's funny or is a good Star Wars quote. And to me, what was really interesting was watching the entire discourse on do or do not, there is no try. Because a lot of times, Yoda gets credited, it's do or do not, there is no try. That's on t-shirts. People who have no idea what Star Wars is or even who Yoda is know that quote. Know the quote. And they know it's from the little green Muppet. Like, that's how it works. People know that quote. But Yoda goes through and explains an entire discourse about what trying is and why it's important that you set your mind to something, and that it doesn't matter necessarily how, like, these circumstances surrounding you, that you control your own destiny. That it's just a really interesting perspective that Yoda gives that I feel like is lost sometimes, and people being like, do or do not, there's no try. Like, that's a great quote, but the surrounding information,
like, there's more
makes
to it.
It's so interesting, and that you could have an entire TED talk on that. Honestly,
TED talk by Logan on do or do not.
It's my next TED talk. Please come watch.
Please come prepared with a notebook.
You'll be needing notes, but that's really cool. I'd encourage everyone to go watch it and just think about literally just that kind of minute-long explanation that Yoda gives, because it's really impactful. And to me, that scene made Star Wars, because Star Wars has always been laser battles and stuff, but underlying all that, there's a huge moral message. There's huge teaching moments, and it's all about kind of the successes and failures of teachers. Yeah. And that's a really cool overarching theme to me, and that's the scene probably that made Star Wars for me.
Awesome.
This week. Yeah. No, that's great. Empire Strikes Back's probably still my favorite Star Wars, and I totally agree. That's just a very impactful scene. If you guys didn't get a chance to comment your favorites on the Instagram and Facebook post, I'd encourage you to do so, or just drop it on the comment section here in YouTube. Thanks for hanging out with us today. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitch. We're everywhere these days. Yes, whatever. So follow us, and may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.